Theewaterskloof Dam played host to the 5th and final WCAD Series race of 2012. Competitors were treated to almost perfect weather conditions, glassy waters and beautiful mountains awaited. A 2 AM start meant that long course competitors would not get much sleep, and nighttime navigation would be crucial.
A combination of what we feel has been a great year of adventure racing in the Western Cape, and we are seeing loads of new faces, especially in the short course, which is happening tomorrow morning, kicking off at 8 AM. It's fantastic for the sport, and the series is just going from strength to strength. Okay, so we're all here and accounted for, guys.
First up was the paddle leg, and long course competitors needed to find their way to 3 checkpoints around the dam, totaling about 10 kilometers, before returning back to transition and swapping over to mountain biking kits and heading off on an epic mountain bike leg. As the sun came up, long course competitors made their way through the 70-odd kilometers towards the satellite transition. The climbing was relentless, but riders were rewarded with amazing vistas, and this is what makes the sport worthwhile. The long course is the flagship event of the WCAD Series. It is considerably more difficult than the short course, but competitors are rewarded for their extra determination as they often get to see some of the most beautiful parts of the course. The WCAD Series race organisers advise that people who are new to the sports of AR start out with the short course, but they encourage those who have completed a short course or two and are able to step up to the long course and test their endurance, push their boundaries, and extend their lust for adventure. Meanwhile, back at the start, short course competitors were starting to think about heading out on their own adventure.
Very ready.
It looks quite daunting, but a lot of fun. It's going to be beautiful weather, very excited.
32 short course pairs lined up on the start line and set off in a massive frenzy. The short course is aimed at introducing new people to the grueling sport of adventure racing at what can be described as a relatively novice-friendly level. The early stages of the race had a few navigationally challenging checkpoints, and lots of teams chose to follow one another up and down the orchards in what could only be described as the blind leading the blind. It didn't take long for the more experienced racers to start to open a gap in the rest of the field, and gradually the teams became more and more spread out. There was an interesting route choice between checkpoint 7 and 8, where teams could choose to ride an additional 4 kilometers up a roundabout road or hike their bikes directly up a 200-meter mountainside. There was no real advantage in either option, but weighing up the pros and cons and making a strategic decision is what it is all about.
Well, we decided to hike up a hill from the quarry, which was kind of gnarly in places. We both slipped a couple of times. And then we entered the world of Mad Max, this crazy quarry with white limestone everywhere for quartzites. It was just brilliant. I like how he said we decided to hike.
After checkpoint 8, teams dropped down onto a brief tar road section before the real climbing would begin. The satellite transition was situated at Rusty Gate Farm, which is halfway up a mountain that definitely calls for granny gear. The dam at Rusty Gate provided welcome relief in the heat of the day, and racers were given an added thrill with a zipline entry to fetch the floating checkpoint. Competitors then changed into their running shoes, downed an ice-cold 100 plus, and headed deep into the mountains on a trekking loop.
I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm breaking in, shaping up.
The short course trek involved the 6-kilometer loop to fetch 3 checkpoints, and by this stage they had caught up to the long course competitors, who were out on a much more challenging hike, including 2 additional outlier checkpoints, both of which were on mountaintops. Patience was tested, and surely some sense of humour was left up in the mountains, as teams had to fight their way through miles and miles of burnt protea bushes before heading back down to transition and getting ready for another bike leg.
You can see the rocket imprint from my car. That's how dirty it was out there.
There was a 2-kilometer sharp climb out of transition, after which the short course had a long flowing descent back towards the Theewaterskloof Dam. The long course had yet another curveball as they climbed some more before starting a gnarly descent down an unused track that tested the most skilled riders and was surely cause for some choice words of abuse towards organisers. The descent took its toll on tired bodies and put the bikes through much abuse. The eventual winners would agree, as Evan Price had to cycle the last 10 kilometers into the finish line on his rear rim. The short course still had to complete their 5-kilometer pedal loop before they could cross the finish line and enjoy their ice-cold castle lights and claim bragging rights to having completed a grueling wicked race.
And we got on top of that nice ridge
the riding
ride.
was awesome.
That was awesome, and we ended up in fantastic luck.
The hill certainly ramped it up. And it's not mountain biking, it's mountain hill.
That hill was a monster. Just when you think the hill's about to end, you turn a little corner and it carries on going.
We've got to brush up on our nav skills. And the guy gets off, starts pushing, and the chick just carries on going. Drills past all of us. So it's sort of the men from the girls in no uncertain terms.